Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. The video on your screen is the scene today. Last week, the Minister of Finance, Professor Mthulu Ncube, was saying that the regime was going to enforce the law to stop the money traders trading in the ZiG, the new currency. And this is the scene today in, I think this was Harare, where the police was dispatched in full force to beat up the money traders. The ZiG, although the currencies have not been officially released yet, it's supposed to be released on the 30th of April, but nonetheless on the black market, it has been trading. When it was launched on the 5th of April, it was $1 was equal to 16.67 the ZiG. But today, on the black market, you would need 23 ZiG to get $1. So the ZiG has already lost its value by a staggering 41%. And the regime's reaction is to force the black market traders, money traders, off the street using brute force. This is the scene. Benjamin, good evening.
Good evening to you, and good evening to our viewers.
This is tragic.
A sore sight for sure. It's very, very, very tragic, and I would believe not everybody there is a money changer. You can see with different dress codes, and people. Some are just going about their ways. It's sad. I mean, honestly, you cannot force things on people. You cannot. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to say people should not go to the black market when you cannot walk inside a bank and get an alternative, right? If it was that simple, I don't think there would be any black market. If one could just simply just walk into a shop, into a bank, and get the currency that they need, whether they want to buy maybe fuel or they want to pay school fees. We're already going to schools are opening, the first week of next month. Everything is priced in US dollars, So where do they expect people to get this here money from? Is the first question. Secondly, they can try and do all that there, but there is over 14 million Zimbabweans that go to the black market. Everybody go, including the ones that were beating others, they go to the black market. So the question now is, what benefit and what confidence does it bring when a regime is doing this and you're trying to sell this product? You're only fueling, for me, it's just fueling the whole black market. They're trying to stop the inevitable anyway.
Well, I'll be honest with you. My big surprise here is that the ZiG has lost its value so quickly. I think when it was launched 2 weeks ago, I was saying, well, maybe by the end of the month or next month, it will have lost ground, significant ground. But here we are. It has not even been released yet. And already it has lost 41% of its value. 2 weeks. This is just unbelievable. You do not have to be an economist to say that the ZiG was going to lose its value. Like I said before, and like what many other people have said on this platform, many other platforms and so forth, is that the political and economic realities that had undermined the other Zimbabwean currencies since independence are still there. The white elephant in the room is still there. And to think you can just change the name of the currency and expect it to hold its value without changing the fundamentals, it's meaningless. Absolutely meaningless. I mean, I'll be honest with you, Benji. I'm really surprised that it has lost so much ground already before it's even launched.
No, I wasn't surprised. I mean, we experienced this when Mugabe removed the first zeros on the bearer check, and then he brought coins that were used from long back. He says all money is working now. When he removed the zeros, the way it just spiked.
It is what you saw in the monetary policy statement.
Oh, my apologies.
We also didn't know much about the structured currency. We got a consultant.
Sorry about that, Benjamin. Sorry.
No, it's okay. So for me, it was no surprise, because once you do that, you are just simply removing zeros. You are not adding value to your money. So they will just price it right back
in 2 weeks. Did you expect that?
Well, you would have thought it would take longer, but I thought it would spike when it's now in full motion, where everything is now circulating and everything. But such is the confidence that is there for the money. There is absolutely nothing, and people are already valuing it as there's no value to it, 0%. So people will just toss it as they please. It's just going to get worse. Within maybe by the time we finish this week, going on next week, we will be maybe in the 40s or maybe even the 100. It's very possible. We have seen nothing yet. It's going to happen very, very fast, just the same way Mugabe did his.
They are going to release the banknotes, the ZiG banknotes, starting 30th of April. And I expect that when that becomes the official release currency and the civil servants and so forth will be paid in ZiG as of the 30th of April, there will be a lot of ZiG then chasing the US dollar. And I expect if it has lost 41%, now when the ZiG is not officially released, readily available on the market, when it becomes readily available, I expect, and I agree with you, that the ZiG will lose its value even faster. But let's just listen to this clip where the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe himself is explaining why this volatility, the reason for this, the ZiG losing its value.
It is what you saw in the monetary policy statement. We also didn't know much about the structured currency. We got a consultant from the World Bank who came to us, and a lot of the things that you are seeing about the structured currency actually came from the World Bank. So If you're going to blame me, you're actually blaming the World Bank. Maybe they didn't advise us properly. And if they did not advise us properly, it's fine. Let's refine it. So I just wanted to give you.
I've heard a vote of no confidence from other people, but I never thought I would hear a vote of no confidence from the Reserve Bank governor himself. This is absolutely shocking, you know. So now we are blaming the World Bank.
I mean, when somebody really doesn't, have confidence in whatever they're doing, that they actually. This is why I say I think sometimes with this regime, it's because it's. I think they're delusional. They really do not put facts before they they deliver whatever they want to deliver. Whether it be a consultant, fine, it's a consultant that came. A consultant is paid to do what you want them to do. And I honestly believe there was no consultant. It is a way just to try and get that little bit of confidence in the money. Just to try and stabilize things, to say, since the World Bank is involved, I think we are going somewhere. And, if the World Bank is to say the truth right now, I'm telling you, this thing will just crash. Because I'm sure they have no idea or they have no hand whatsoever in the creation of this pandemic called the ZiG. It's okay. You are selling a product and then you say, I know very little about it. Surely, I think you just go and if you sell something, you might be lucky if somebody buys whatever you're selling that you don't know what it does, and then you say, come on guys, let's just try it. For me, that was the end of it. I just said, what this guy has just done is just doomed his project, and that's the end of it. And everybody in the picture, they were, in the video, were just looking at him and laughing to say, do you honestly know what you were saying, what you've just said right now? Surely this is madness.
Well, the interesting thing about this blaming the World Bank is that in the past, the World Bank has given them advice, the Zimbabwe government advice. And the regime then cherry picks, implements what it wants, and ignores the rest. And that's why to blame the World Bank is just a scapegoat. In this particular case, if he's genuinely telling us that he didn't understand what it is, why didn't he implement it? Why did he implement it? And in this cartoon, I think it captures the essence of this argument. His name there, if you can see it, is J. Mushayazano. His real name is John Mushayavanu. But in this case here, for those who do not understand Shona, Mushayazano, Zano means idea. This is an individual who has no idea what they're doing. And the rest has started. They're the ones who decided when the rest should start, 5th of April. And then when they started the race, they were not ready. And so we can see the person there, the black market, taking off. And they have already taken off. And their response is to use violence to stop the black market. And the World Bank official there has fired the starting gun. Why was the government not ready? Beggars belief. But I think what really matters here is that this is a vote of no confidence in the ZiG, coming from the officials themselves. And they're trying to find a scapegoat. What good is it blaming the World Bank in this case? If you launch the ZiG as they plan to do on the 30th of April, those on the bottom of the economic pecking order are the ones who are going to suffer the most. They do not have the power, the economic power, to say, no, I don't want to be paid in ZiG. I want to be paid in US dollar or rand or whatever it is. And yet those who do have the economic power, they can say, no, I don't want to be paid in ZiG. I want to be paid in US dollar. And even if they accept the ZiG, they will accept at their own exchange rate, which is favorable to them. And invariably, it will be the black market. And the poor guy at the bottom of the scale, if they're buying US dollar, they will buy it at the lower rate, the official rate even. If they're selling the US dollar, they get a raw deal. So either side, the ordinary person is the one who is losing here. And to say the World Bank is to blame, what good is it to the ordinary person? Because they're not going to go to the World Bank and say, listen, I've lost all my savings because the ZiG has collapsed. This is a nightmare for the ordinary Zimbabwean. And I think that is what I find so infuriating with this regime. And of course, the other thing about it is that at the end of the day, the ordinary Zimbabwean who are paying the bill, were paying dearly for the ZiG's collapse, have no redress. They can't go to the World Bank to blame them for it. They can't hold the regime to account for it, because we know that the regime is not democratically elected. They can rig elections and impose themselves. So the ordinary person has no recourse whatsoever. I think that is what I find so infuriating about this ZiG.
I agree with you. I mean, they are looking for a scapegoat to say, if it fails, well, it wasn't our idea in the first place. We were ill-advised. We'll come up with a better solution, and then life should just go on. It's a pity we are, like rightfully you said, we're dealing with a regime that is out of touch with reality and not in touch with people on the ground and actually finding what is happening with their consumers, which is every Zimbabwe that is out there. I mean, the economy of Zimbabwe is not doing very well. Is doing badly. So whatever they try and do in terms of trying to stabilize this here whole, currency, domestic currency, is a non-starter at the present moment, because the fundamentals are all wrong. We will talk about the political, okay, because that's the source of the whole problem. But if we're to talk about the economic problems that are in Zimbabwe, we know everything of ours is closed. We're basically importing everything, right? And selling very, very little. So our balance of trade is not good. So obviously our currency will suffer, just without putting the black market, just the fundamentals of economics. So when you add now with the political and the black market and all the other winds come together and we mix them inside the same pot, it's just brewing disaster. And unfortunately, rightfully, like you said again, it's the ordinary person that suffers. The teacher is going to be told, you are getting your money in ZiG. The nurse, your money in ZiG. The doctor, everybody that is within the government is going to be told they are getting ZiG, except them. Right? Get me right? Except them. They will continue with their US dollars plus loans in US dollars, and they have the ability to actually take their ZiG, their ZiG, if they're paid in ZiG, to the bank, and the bank will cash out for them US dollars. Yet you and me have to go back to the what? To the black market. So whatever way, I believe, in conclusion, I would say, I believe that there is more than 14 million Zimbabweans that survive on the black market. So no matter how hard you can try and beat people to say to stop the black market, people will end up having contacts. They will call each other. They will meet somewhere it's safe or secluded and do their transactions. Whether they like it or not, they will not stop it as long as the basics that every Zimbabwean needs is being priced in US dollars. It will just continue being US dollars. And you will be just surprised to see that the ZiG is going lower and lower, but you can't find anybody on the street. That's what is going to happen.
Well, one of the areas where one can immediately say you cannot blame the World Bank for that. When this new currency, the ZiG, was launched, everybody was told that it was going to be a structured currency. In other words, it's going to be linked to gold. This ZiG is not a new name, like I explained last time. This is the name of the gold coin that ZANU-PF produced a few months ago. And that gold coin has got 1 milligram of real gold. And what made that coin valuable is the gold itself. And so this ZiG was going to be, we were told it was going to be linked with the gold reserves that the nation holds, plus the foreign currency that the nation holds. We all know that when Mnangagwa visited the Reserve Bank the day before the launch on the 5th of April, the vault was opened and Zimbabwe had 1.5 tons of gold. And we know the regime is going to print billions of dollars. That money, that gold that was in the vault is worth only about 200 million US dollars. So if you're going to print money, it must reflect what is in the bank. That is where the key is. Yeah, that's why you're saying it's structured. So if the World Bank's advice is you have got to build up your World Bank, your gold reserves and foreign currency so that it matches the amount of paper money that is circulating, the regime is failing to meet that. We only saw 200 million worth of gold in the vault. And we know that the regime, come 30th of April, will have a lot more ZiG paper money than the gold. So why did you say it was a structured currency tied up to the gold reserve? If that is what the World Bank advised them, as the governor of the Reserve Bank is telling us now, then the officials will say, you are going ahead and printing money, and they are not tying it to the amount of gold that you have. It's not as if Zimbabwe does not have the gold. We saw in the documentary last year, the Al Jazeera documentary, 80% of Zimbabwe's gold is being smuggled out of the country. And we are not getting the US dollars for it. That is where the problem is. Those are some of the white elephants in the room. This is just a nightmare. And I think it is most unfortunate that, like I said, the biggest victims here are the ordinary people who will find themselves stuck with a ZiG that nobody wants, that is losing its value by the day. If it has lost 41% of its value in 2 weeks before more of that currency is actually in circulation, I shudder to think how much it will be losing once the civil servants, everybody is being paid, and the banks have got billions of this ZiG paper money in circulation. It really is unbelievable. This is a nightmare. We've been here before, and people are being forced down that route again. And at the end of the day, which is the most annoying thing, the people themselves have absolutely no chance of saying, we are not happy with this. They have no say in this. This is the tragedy of Zimbabwe. Do you want to give your concluding remarks, Ben?
Yeah, in conclusion, I would say, it's unfortunate that, we have such a regime that is so wicked. And I've said this, and I'll say it again. This regime is more muscle than brains. They would not stop to say, at least how can we trick these people into believing this? Rather, they would rather shove it down your throat. If you don't want it, we are just going to give it to you anyhow. So now they have just decided to open up the floodgates of violence to people that are just walking. Some people have done absolutely nothing there, unlike just being there. And when it happens, it's quite unfortunate, when you have such individuals that are supposed to be protecting you doing such a thing. And unfortunately, one thing they do not realize is you're forcing it down on people like this. Tomorrow they are not going to stand with it. And you may be surprised by the time it's circulating, but I will tell you, by the time it starts circulating, the fireworks will start, and this thing will plunge worse than what was happening with the RTGS, and in a shorter period of time. So I urge everybody to be aware of what is about to come, and what is going to unfold, and then be prepared. If anybody wants to do transactions in this year, do it safely. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Benjamin. I just wanted to comment on Grace's comment there. So with 41% loss, what is the best way forward now? I think that is a very logical question. But in a country where the ordinary person has no say, it's really, to be quite honest, at the present moment, the most rational solution would be, let's sort out the political and economic problems in the country. And the political one is easy to solve. And it could have been easily solved last year if we had a free, fair, and credible election. When you have got a regime that blatantly rigs the election, you have got a regime that is a pariah state, that people do not want to do business with because they can't trust it. And one of the problems with a pariah state is that they come up with such things. They make a decision which has got devastating economic consequences to millions of people. But because they are not accountable, they are not democratically accountable to anybody, they know they can get away with it. That is where the problem starts. So we can solve it by making sure we've got democratic reforms to ensure free, fair, and credible elections. That would be the way forward. But at the present moment, of course, ZANU-PF claims that they've won the election. So we have got to put up with the next 5 years of this regime and doesn't listen to anybody. That is where we have got a problem. So we are stuck with a regime, and this is not the first time that ZANU-PF has rigged elections. They have rigged elections since independence. But that is where the problem is. There is no easy solution in this particular case, as long as you've got a pariah state. And that is the truth. The regime will try to blame everybody else except themselves. And when they blame the World Bank, as the governor is saying here, they know, even if people can show, and somebody actually remarked and said, if the World Bank was to come out and say what it advised them to do and how they've ignored that advice, they've cherry-picked on that advice, the people will be surprised. But it's not for the World Bank to do that. They gave their advice, and if ZANU-PF, as they've done in the past, decides that they're going to ignore it and then blame the World Bank, what else can the World Bank do? They're not going to start be involved in the politics of Zimbabwe, and fight a propaganda war with a regime saying one thing today and tomorrow they'll say another something else. So the short answer to this one is that until we have we get rid of this pariah state status, I don't really see any positive coming out of this situation. Thank you very much, the listeners out there, and thank you very much, Benjamin, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you. Good night to everybody.
Yeah, and to everybody, good night. Thank you. Bye and good night.